Hi, welcome to the walkthrough of the South East London Care Record. This video is for healthcare professionals in South East London. If you're in a different part of London, you may have a different configuration of the London Care Record depending on the region. So some of the names of the widgets and other pieces of data may not be relevant to you. The way that you access the London Care Record is through your clinical system. For example, EMIS, Rio, Epic, or iCare, among others. You would normally click on what we call a contextual link, where you can view the platform via a window embedded in your clinical system. Data sources. When accessing the London Care Record, on the top right of the screen, there is a section that says Partners Finished Loading. Make sure that you allow it to load fully to 100% before you start looking through the record. It just means that some of the data sources may be taking a bit more time to pull through all the data, depending on what's happening locally with those partners. This may take a few moments to load, so just make sure that it's completely loaded before you start. If you're not sure what partners have loaded or not loaded and would like to double check, you can go to the menu, Show Partner Status, and ensure that this is active with a checked box in case you do not have it active already. Underneath the patient demographics bar, it will show you which partners have loaded. If they have loaded as expected, it should display the letters OK. If they have not loaded successfully, you may notice an F, which stands for failed, or NF, which stands for not found, which means that no record of the patient was found from that partner. If you notice that there's data missing from a patient record that should be there, or that a partner connection is failing entirely, please reach out to our support team and we'll be happy to help. If you notice a red banner underneath the patient demographics bar, this means that the patient has a universal care plan against their record. You can find a link to the patient's Universal Care Plan portal within the Shared Record Systems widget, or you can view it as a read-only PDF document within the Care Plans widget. For more information, skip to the Care Plans or Shared Record Systems section of the video. Alerts. Next to the partners, you have a small icon of a megaphone. Clicking on this icon will grant you access to the News and Updates notice board. Really useful to see any London Care Record downtimes, any issues with the information hosted on the LCR, and useful information that you need to know as a user. Reconfiguring and filtering results. On the top left corner of the screen, underneath the demographics bar, you have some filter options available. Time frame, where you can pick the date range. Results. This gives you the option to look for local or external records of a particular partner. Layout. This lets you reconfigure the arrangement of the screen by changing the layout to 1, 2, or 3 columns. Sources. For example, if we just wanted to see the data from a specific partner, we could just check that box and uncheck everything else. There is also a word search function that lets you search for actual phrases. Please bear in mind that when you reconfigure these, you'll have that layout saved for you in future consultations. For example, if I move these blue boxes, also known as widgets, around and leave the filters engaged, these changes will be present for all patient records that are consulted in the future. To revert changes, you can click on Reset and then pick Reset Filters to user defaults from the drop-down. You can also revisit the menu at the top right-hand corner and click on Reset View to System Defaults. This option will revert all filters and widget positions to their original state. Widgets will move around as you reconfigure the layout options. If Automatic is selected, the amount of columns the widgets are arranged in will adjust based on the size of the screen you are using. For example, if you're accessing the LCR via a tablet device, it's likely to display as 1 column. Once you return to a device with a larger screen, such as your desktop, the layout should return to 3 columns. These changes happen under the automatic layout. However, you have the option to implement these changes manually. Additionally, you can manually change the position of the boxes, or what we like to call widgets, to enhance your experience. You can expand the widget to see the full summary of data available. You can collapse it to return it to its original size and see the rest of the widgets again. You can also hide the summary by selecting the arrow with the line at the top. Some of the widgets contain filters with a small drop-down that allow you to change how the data is presented to you within that specific widget. You can also click on the small triangle within the Date Completed column of the widget to display data items from newest to oldest or from oldest to newest. You're able to turn elements of the interface on or off. You can locate these options on the top right corner of your screen when you click on the menu button. you can switch on or off the option to show source MRNs, partner status, filters, and the disclaimer, which explains how the data is being pulled and how it should be used. You can also make the demographics bar narrow, which can free up more real estate on the screen and allow you to see more information at once. User Guide. You can access the User Guide by clicking on the User Guide button at the top right-hand corner of the screen. This guide contains information relevant to the platform, such as how to use the interface, details on the widgets and the type of data they display, role-based access control and how it's implemented, also what pieces of data are shared by each organisation and where they can be found on the platform. Audits. The London Care Record, like any other clinical system, keeps a log of the patient records you access and the documents you open, just so that it's all auditable and a trail can be shown of who has been accessing a particular patient's record and at what time. Widgets. The London Care Record gives an extensive snapshot of patient data captured in acute trusts, GP practices, social and mental health care settings. Patient data from all partners can be viewed in the relevant widgets. GP records. This contains only data from GP practices. Data from acute sources, such as hospitals, will not appear here. Patient data can be retrieved from various reports, like patient details, examinations, risks and warnings, investigations, medications, procedures, events, problems, the summary and diagnosis. Clicking on each of these links will provide specific patient information from their GP practice. Referrals. For referrals, you will be able to see them here on the referral widget. You will be able to see past and current referrals, who has referred the patient, the speciality, team, reason, urgency, when it was initiated, and the source of the referral. Future appointments. The Future Appointment widget displays appointments for secondary care. You'll be able to see the date and time of the appointment type, the speciality, and the source organisation that this appointment was generated from. You can also hover your mouse over the appointment, which will prompt a message box containing all the details in a more compact way. This may be a good option to quickly skim through more appointments and see further information. Additionally, you can expand the widget if there are a lot of appointments being shown and you have multiple pages to alternate between. Alternatively, you can look at encounters. This will display a summary that is pulled through of referrals into secondary care. This would be acute hospital visits. You can click on the encounter within the list to expand it, showing more details related to the visit. Clinical correspondence and miscellaneous reports. Clinical correspondence. Here you can find examples of discharge summaries, outcome letters, and maternity documentation. Depending on the source organisation, clinical documentation can appear in the Miscellaneous Reports widget. Please be sure to check that widget if you can't find the document you're looking for. Miscellaneous Reports. This widget contains reports such as ward progress notes, ED clinician notes, and various other clinical documents. When looking for clinical documentation on a patient's record, it's always good to consult this widget as well as the Clinical Correspondence widget, as some organisations differ in how they share their data. Mental health. This widget lists information relevant to the patient's mental health dataset. It contains several reports that capture events, alerts, and contacts. Some documentation, like discharge summaries, may appear within the Clinical Correspondence widget, but most data is expected to display here. Community. This widget loads data from organisations that use EMIS Community, such as Bromley Healthcare. It provides a journal view of the patient's records. Social care. This widget contains data from social care services and will display information such as professional involvements, relationships, risks, care packages, and assessment details, among others. The information presented may vary between different social care providers. Social context. This documents the social history of the patient from multiple sources. Procedures. This widget displays procedures performed in an acute hospital. To view procedures from GP practices, you might want to have a look at the GP Records widget. Problem list. This widget includes disabilities or long-term conditions, such as cancer, diabetes, or a social care disability. It will also include visit diagnosis information. This can be seen as a separate subgroup when you click on All Results. You can pick from the drop-down whether to view the results to be grouped as a chronic problem or a visit diagnosis. Blood sciences. These are numeric blood results provided from laboratory systems where information is available. The blood science widget color codes the results based on reference ranges from the data provider. If the result is high or low compared to the reference range, it will be marked in red. Radiology. This is where you can see the reports for X-rays, CT scans, and ultrasounds. The London Care Record does not currently support actual PACS images, although there have been talks across London with view to potentially implement this in the future. Vital signs. This widget displays the patient's health measurements, such as weight, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and temperature, among others. Cellular Pathology. This is where you can find histopathology and cytopathology reports. Microbiology. This widget includes test results and clinical microbiology reports for the patient. Medications. Currently, only medications issued from Lewisham and Greenwich NHS Trust will display in this widget. It won't include what could be described as takeaway medications. For example, medications that are prescribed in A&E and distributed by a pharmacy elsewhere. If you're looking for medications on the patient's GP record, you can find them by looking at the GP Records widget. If you're looking for medications that have been prescribed in the mental health setting, you may need to go to the Clinical Correspondence widget and look for the latest discharge summary from that mental health setting. For example, here they've been discharged from SLAM. Within that summary, you have the information on what medications have been prescribed. Allergies. This widget lists allergies shared from several source systems. The date onset field clarifies the date on which this allergy was updated in the source system. This is one of the only widgets that will display information regardless of what filters are engaged. Care plans. This details care plans for the patient. Information from Bexley, Bromley, and Lewisham Adult Social Care can be found in this widget. Also, a PDF version of the Universal Care Plan provided by Better Care can be viewed in this widget. Shared record systems. Within this widget, you'll find a link to the Universal Care Plan for this patient. This is a direct link to the Better Care UCP platform, and you're able to make edits to the patient's Universal Care Plan through this portal. If a patient has a Universal Care Plan against their record, a red banner will appear underneath the patient demographics bar. Thank you for using the London Care Record. Should you have any queries, please feel free to reach out to our support team via email and we'll do our best to help.